Hey, welcome to the Church Explained podcast, a conversation to grow your leadership and build your church. Come on, well. Listen. Why don't you share one or two? Share some. What are your highs? What's the highlights there of what God's doing, and what's some of the challenges?
Yeah. There's so many challenges. A lot of them sometimes have nothing to do with the location in itself or the church in itself.
Yeah.
It's a lot of internal things, Dave. But
Yeah.
I think let me speak to the highs. I think the high for me, for Jess and I, my wife, getting a chance to start something and getting the privilege and honor and the trust by our leadership to start something has been one of the greatest privileges of life. It's shaped our marriage. It's challenged us to be better. I've grown personally in my relationship walk with God because there's a lot of faith you need. There's days you wake up, if you're a pastor or leader right now listening, or an entrepreneur, a business leader, leading something and being responsible for it, the demand naturally develops you. So the natural demand of starting something and the responsibility develops you, or it should. It's either going to develop you or it's going to crush you. And so Jess and I have just this opportunity with people around us who shape us, challenge us, encourage us. So there's a high end just in a sense to have that opportunity to grow.
Brilliant.
Because something like this allows you to grow as individuals, but also in your marriage. There's a lot of things you have to create spaces and boundaries and conversations and investments into one another in order for you to grow healthy and for this church to be healthy. And we don't always do it well. Some days we're like, we could be a lot better, but because of the demand, that's causing us to have those conversations. I think a high, though, if I were to specifically speak to the location, is 12 people in a living room in July 23rd, 2019, to seeing over 2,500 people make a decision to follow Jesus as of a couple weeks ago is incredible. That's a story of God and God's faithfulness only. No human, no system, no structure can do that. It's only God. 12 people to seeing over 2,500 people make a decision 3 years later is unreal, and I can't believe it. And this is all the challenges of, like you said, everyone's been through it. 7 weeks in, we launched the location, and 7 weeks after that, COVID hits, and everyone is shifting online. I'm like, this thing is shutting down. This is over. And God's like, let me show you how I build my church. And so, I think that's the high, is that I've seen God build his church no matter what challenge. And no matter what human fear or thought you may have about it. God's like, I love the church more than you do.
Yeah. Hey. Let me just draw out a couple of things there. I think one of the things I want to try and draw out there is this idea of when people, in leadership, when they see something in us and they call that out of us, actually, there's something in that, isn't it, that gives us confidence.
Absolutely.
And I think I'm mentioning that because, there could be leaders who are listening. Maybe they're thinking, hey, we want to get somebody on staff or we want to invite somebody in. Just by the fact of leaders seeing somebody can really put confidence in them to do the role that God's called them to do. And I guess that's a little bit what you're describing there. Those the staff, they're Sweb challenging you in good old Sweb style with his own version of the story. But, something about that, when somebody challenges you, then it causes you to either step up or step away, doesn't it, really?
Right.
And but it gives us that confidence that somebody sees something in us that actually they're trying to draw out. Right. And maybe there's something, even leaders listening, just to encourage them, listen, why don't you have what we often call an I see in you conversation. What is it you see in somebody? Draw it out of them and let them see that you've got confidence in them to lead a service, lead a department, lead a ministry, whatever it may be, even lead a campus. There's something about that as well. The other thing I do want to dive into is, if you're okay, how do you feel just about sharing some of those internal challenges? Maybe some of the listeners.
Absolutely.
As comfortable as you are, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
what are some of the things you faced that maybe other leaders are facing that you can speak into?
I think, there's so many different layers to this. I think part of me still thinks, hey, do I really belong here? I never wanted to be a pastor. It's not been a dream of mine. I feel young. I feel
still looking young.
There you go. See, that's exactly how I feel. I feel it. People say it, and I think of so many successful people and leaders and people who are in their faith in seasons ahead of me, and so there's just that insecurity of, I'm too young. I don't have enough experience and wisdom to come alongside and pastor people. My title is a pastor. I'm pastoring this community, this campus that we have in Orlando. But how can I pastor some people that I've never been? I got married, so I was married when we started this campus, 12 people, but I didn't have kids. So how am I going to pastor parents? I don't have kids, and then I haven't been successful. I haven't been a pastor before. They're getting a brand new pastor. They're getting like this rookie of a pastor who hasn't done anything before, a newbie. Yeah. And why are they going to commit to me? I know people are trusting their finances and tithing and bringing 10% back to God. I know it's in God, but they're looking at me and the establishment. Are they going to trust me? My hair is a certain way. I dress a certain way. I don't look nowhere near what they look like or whatever. Maybe, and you start to think all these different things. Yeah. And so I think that's at the core. Sometimes that can stifle someone, whether it's an age, right, or it's an experience. Yeah. Whatever, maybe. Or you can flip it and say, "Well, I'm too old." I'm way seasons ahead, and I feel like I've got some knowledge and wisdom, but this is a younger demographic. Are there going to be any young? You could flip it, and it could be something else for someone. But for me, it's that I think another part of it is, can I really do this for the long haul? Yeah. If I have no experience, I've not done this before. Sure. Can I last? And I think when you look around and see different leaders and different people and you see certain things happening in the church world and people falling and making mistakes, you have that side of it. It's, I want to be able to do this for the long haul. Can I do it for the long haul? God, can you help me finish this well? Can I do this well? I think a lot of it sometimes as well is just seeing naturally. I think we all do it, just comparison. You see other people who preach, you see other people who teach, other people who lead, and you feel like they just do a better job at it. Yeah. They just sound better. They just word that better. They got this, they got that. And you start to talk yourself out of what you bring. Because it's hard to see ourselves. We don't have eyes to see ourselves, right? You and I have eyes to see other people. I could look at a mirror, and the mirror only reflects what you think, not actually what you see. I think we oftentimes think we see what we see, but we actually are seeing this version that we really think. I think... it's like, I look at myself and someone's like, man, your hair looks great. And I'm like, I actually thought this morning looked terrible. How is it one person sees my hair looking great? I saw it as, it doesn't look great. Yeah. And I think those challenges naturally come in leadership I don't have what it takes. I'm too young. I'm not smart enough. I haven't done this long enough. I don't have the resources. I don't have the building. I don't have the permanent facility. I don't have the leaders. Whatever it may be, we'll find ourselves and tell ourselves we're not good enough. And I think for me, a bigger one and a challenge, and I think God is teaching me, hey, I picked you, I've chose you. God. And then this is what I tell myself when I'm in my position a lot of times, is I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be a pastor. This wasn't like a dream of mine and put it on the list. I resisted this. I resisted being a pastor. I resisted leading at this capacity. Somehow, some way, I've said yes because internally I felt this call. And so, God, I'm here. And I told them there were 14 other people that could be better than me leading this campus. But yet they chose me. If they chose me, that means you must have chosen me. There must be something you put inside me that could bring people closer to you. And I think if you ask me the desire, what's my favorite thing about what I get to do, is I get to share with people the things that God has done, the things that Jesus has done in my life to change it. And I don't necessarily have this been to jail 17 years and God saved me. That's not my story, but what I do have is that I felt lonely, isolated, and it looked like I had everything, but I felt like nothing. And God saved me. He found me there, and He's divinely shaped and invested and reactivated or reignited what was already inside of me, and it's this passion to love God. And I think one thing I love to talk most about is who Jesus is and the gospel story. So if I get a chance with a few minutes with people, you're probably going to sense the sense of passion for God's church and who God is. And so I think that's my favorite thing, is to spend time talking with people, meeting him for coffee, meeting him in the lobby, telling him I want to encourage people. I want him to walk away feeling, you know what, God's best is in front of me. God's future is bright for my life. Yes, there's some challenges I'm facing, but if I've got God inside me, I've got everything. Yeah. And if I can wake up and have breath in my lungs and an ability to write and see the future in more of a imagination sense, then why not? Go for it.
Yeah, I like that. Just overcoming those I guess imposter syndrome sort of stuff isn't it really in the challenges we face, just by reminding ourselves actually that God has chosen us. That's the big thing, and the passion He's put
I
in
think
our
David's
lives.
yeah. Yeah, I think David's what's in your hand.
Yeah.
You know, and
Exactly.
Moses had a staff.
Yeah.
And I know we've all heard that, but what's in your hand? And I think so often we think we need to have something in our hand
Yeah.
10 years from now. Oh, if I get
Yeah.
the experience 10 years from now, I'm going to have
Yeah.
something better in my hand. And we don't maximize what we have in it today. And, you know, if what's in my hand are just a few stones in a sling, not an armor, not a sword. Saul offered David his shield and a sword and his armor.
Yeah.
He got the if you will, the building. He got the perfect microphone and sound system. He got the perfect stage. And he realized that God didn't train him with that in hand.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to face Goliath, you can't face Goliath with something you never trained with. So who you are today is what God's trained you for in the moment.
Yeah.
So when I launched this campus, God gave me everything I needed to lead and start that campus
For
with
that
my
moment.
background.
Yeah. Absolutely.
For that moment.
Yeah.
So if it was a
that's the
sling and a
insight.
stone,
Yeah.
that's what I'm using. That's the
Yeah.
insight.
Yeah.
So David puts this armor on, right? And he has the sword and he feels it, and it's like, this is just not me.
Yeah.
I killed him with a bear and a lion with a sling and a stone. So I'm going to face Goliath with what God has trained me and equipped me with for the season, for that moment.
Yeah.
And I think as leaders, I fall victim to, if I had this, if I had that, if I had that. And I'm looking at a 30-year-old church, a 40-year-old church. Even if it's a 10-year-old church and I'm a 1-year-old, they have what they have because they've been in ministry for 10 years and they've served God's people for 10 years. I can't take that, what I don't have or I've organically acquired, whether it's spiritually or in my faith or even systems or structures or people that God sent to be able to build a church like that. And so we spend so much time fantasizing and dreaming of that without saying, what's in my hand? What has God equipped me with today? And I have to remind myself that daily. What's in my hand today, Peter? And if what's in my hand today is just a sling and a stone, well, that means I have exactly what I need to face what God has got in front of me. Even if the enemy is doing something to distract me with, it's like, no, I got it in my hand.
Yeah.
I can do it.
So true, and I think there's something in that. And you know, when we think about people and leaders, often we're all thinking about the future. You know, when I'm like this, or when this happens, or when my church is like this. But there's something about just focusing on the present. What have you got now, and what can you do with what you have now? You know, that's the thing that God can take and use at this time. Hey, let me just throw in another question here, just about Elevation Church. Obviously, you're serving there. We love what you guys are doing. But what's the one thing about Elevation Church that really matters that people don't ask about?
Wow, that's a phenomenal question, Dave. What really matters that people don't ask about? I would say the people of the church.
Brilliant.
I think so often, you know, the version of Elevation Church people see today is this online ministry all over the world, the buildings, the songs, the worship team, Pastor Stephen, who he is today, and how he communicates and how God uses him such a brilliant way. And there's a lot of value in that. I understand that.
Absolutely.
I know that I'm a byproduct of that kind of faith. I get to sit.
Gotcha.
He's my leader, my boss, my pastor. I get to sit under his teaching, and Pastor Holly's teaching.
Yeah.
But I think so often people come in and they want to know the systems and the structures and the things, the bells and whistles. But those things only happen, and I think we see in the favor of God is on it because of the people of the church.
Yeah, I like
And
that.
so I think oftentimes we can miss and forget. I think another question that I would say is that people, when they think about Elevation Church, is how is Elevation Church, or who is Elevation Church, and why is it the way it is today? What shaped it? And I could go back and say, well, Pastor, whenever it was just a few families, just core families, when he was launching the church, the type of faith and belief they had. The time that he fasted 40 days, he wanted to fast for a few days, ended up doing 40 days and 40 without food and without food and just water. And you're like, well, you know, you hear and see his preaching today, and his faith and his audacity and how God is using this ministry all over the globe. But it really started. And here's the thing. In the private, he's still the same person that he was 17 years ago in terms of faith,
Yeah.
desire, willingness, discipline, hunger. And he's going to share his challenges and all this. So when we see Elevation Church and what it is today, it's easy to get wrapped up in the hype of Elevation Church. And I think that happens naturally. People got wrapped up in the hype of Jesus' miracles.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, when the question is that you asked so brilliantly is, what question does no one ask about Elevation Church when they come visit is, hey, who are the people of Elevation Church?
Sure.
Because I think the favor of God on this ministry stems, I think, from the faith of the original core families and Pastor Stephen Holly, but I think it's stewarded by the people of our church. And Pastor Stephen has said that over and over again from his pulpit, as that it's the people of Elevation Church that allow God to dwell and minister to the cities and communities we're in.
No, great answer and great insight there as well. And hopefully that'll help leaders as they're in their own churches or settings. Just to remember, actually, it is about the people. It's not about the systems, the structures, all those things. They're necessary. But actually, it's really about people, isn't it? We need to keep that our focus. Yeah. We can think about all the different things that's going well. But actually, the reason they're going well is because of the people who are there helping those things go well. And sometimes we forget about that. The people who put in the hard graft, the hard work, who are running the things, doing the things. We may think as well, we come up with the idea, but really, actually, it takes more than an idea to really be fruitful. You need the people to work and collaborate together to make the thing happen. Great answer to that.
I think, Dave, if I could add to that, when I could contrast the people, is I think as leaders and as pastors, I think I've fallen victim to this launching this campus.
Yeah.
And they're needed. So I'm going to say they're needed. So if you're a leader or a pastor listening right now and you're launching a location, I got to establish a culture, and I need systems and I need structures and volunteers and all the things that help steward God's church. But I think in the midst of that, you can prioritize those things over God's people. And what I mean by that's why I said it's about the people, is that the people that are coming to church, the Bible says that we're called to equip the saints to do the work of the ministry.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And I think I've missed it at times where I have led people and for good things and the systems and the structures, because it's about the mission. Our mission is so that people far from God be raised to life in Christ. And our vision statement as a church is to see what God can do through you. And they're good things and they're godly things. But what I miss in that moment is I forget to equip the saints to do the work of the ministry. And what that means is, how do I pastor the people? How do I shape them and make them fall in love and show them my life? Not a perfect life, but a life that shows both the vulnerability and the challenges, but also the desire to pursue God. Show them how to pursue God and fall in love with Jesus, and they're going to serve God's church forever. Show them a system and structure, and they're going to rise and fall in your system and structure that's imperfect. Yeah. And so I think, as cliche as that sounds, is our job as pastors and leaders is to help people see Jesus and fall in love with God and fall in love with His church and fall in love with the disciplines of pursuing God and desiring who God is every single day. And when you can do that, and that's not an overnight, a week, a system, a structure, a course, that's a lifestyle. Bring Him into your life. Show them how much you love God, but also show them how you make mistakes and how God corrects you and convicts you. And let them see how to outwork a Bible-based, Jesus-loving, people-loving church. And they're going to serve the church and the vision for as long as they have that in front of them. And that's what the job is, pastoring your people. Because people are coming in, they don't know Jesus, or they've been in church for 30 years and picked up some habits that maybe aren't biblical. Keep pointing them back to God and keep pointing them back to God. And I haven't always done that well. God's been convicting me this past year. Help people see Jesus. And not in the cliche way. Give it in a practical way. What does that practical look like on Monday? What does that practical look like on a Tuesday on a date night? Show them that. And it's not just through social media and your highlights. It's inviting them into your home. It's getting a coffee. Remember, spend time with the people that you pastor. And God's going to give you everything that you need to preach to them and speak to them.
Very good, very good. I mean, it's all, as you said, it's about bringing people into your life. That's the journey, isn't it? That's the privilege as well. The privilege and the challenge, if we're honest, because sometimes we want the space, but actually that's the privilege and the challenge alongside there. Hey, thinking about those closest to you then, maybe a bit of a challenge question for you to answer, but what do they say about you? What do they say about your leadership gift?
Oh, yeah. You know, I think I would hope they would say, because I don't always get it right, Dave, I'll be honest with you. And I just said that, don't always get it right. But I would hope they would say is that someone is authentic in every moment.
Yeah.
That's something I've always wanted to be, is that in every conversation, no matter the opportunity, no matter the moment, no matter the place, I think authenticity breeds anointing.
Yeah.
And I want to be anointed, because if I'm not, then what I say is really just me saying it.
Yeah,
so God, if you called me into this, please allow that your anointing flows in me and through me, so that people can hear your words, not just some kind of cute sticky statement or good leadership. So whether it's a 3-minute conversation with a first-time guest or someone very important in the city, I want them to see someone who's authentic, who's real in the moment, who's not looking over the shoulder and trying to have another conversation with someone else.
Yeah.
But really create a rhythm and a pattern, a habit in my life that the most important conversation is the one in front of me. And I think when I can stay in that place, then I can stay in that childlike faith. Because I believe kids are their most authentic self, and then as you get older, you allow
something happens.
Something happens. We all there. So like, if I could stay as close as I can to this authentic person who loves God in every season and every situation. Don't always do it well, but if I can be there, Dave, I think I can minister and stay healthy and have wind for the long run.
The long haul. That's the big
long
thing,
haul
isn't
of
it?
faith and ministry.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd hope. They're like authentic in every moment. Peter.
Yeah. Well, we'll soon find out. We might put a poll out there and see what they really say, and then we'll let you know.
You know what? Dave, do it, because I'd like to know.
Hey, listen, it's been just great to have you on the show. I've got a few quick-fire questions before we wrap up today. Is that all right?
Love it.
And but they're quick-fire, so you're going to answer them quickly. So I've got a few here in front of me. We'll see which ones we will go for, which ones we'll leave out. So you just got to be ready. But it's been brilliant to have you on the show. Are you ready? So what's your favourite podcast and why do you like it?
I've loved Leadership Lean In with Chad Veach. I just love kind of the practical side of it. He does, you kind of get the Chad Veach realness, but he's also got this passion for developing and building leaders and knowing how that builds God's church.
Brilliant. And what's your 2 books you'd recommend and why?
So I've read a couple books that just challenged me, encouraged me. Craig Rochelle wrote a book, I read it a few years ago, called It.
Yeah,
and,
good book.
His whole premise is how churches can get it and keep it. I think this idea of not chasing systems or structures, there's something spiritual and something internally that as a church, if you could find it, and what God's calling you to do, and what you can keep it and you can build on it. So I felt challenged in that. And then another book was How to Be Like Walt by Pat Williams. I read this book as well.
Yeah, I heard that
and of
one.
course, I'm in Orlando and Disney, so I just love seeing how a dream can become a reality.
Yeah.
If you believe it, serve it, work it, and sustain it. And his life just inspired me to believe and dream big.
Brilliant.
That God can. If we serve a God who's so big, why wouldn't I have big dreams?
Yeah, why not? And your favorite food and why?
So it's called pilimeni. It's a Ukrainian, it's a Ukrainian Slavic staple. It's like ravioli, but love for those who love, my Italians out there and people who love ravioli. But pilimeni, it takes the cake. They're better. It's just a better version of ravioli. Again, love ravioli. Pilimeni,
I've eaten it. I've had it before.
So there you go, Dave.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. That was nice, actually. Yeah, we went to Poland last autumn, and we were visiting some ladies from Ukraine who were staying in the church in Poland.
Yep.
And they cooked us an amazing meal with all the different Ukrainian foods, and that was one of them. But I didn't know what it was called, but I ate it and enjoyed it. So now I know what it's called. Okay, so and your favourite destination and why? If you could go to somewhere in the world, where would you go?
100% Europe. My wife and I are both saying we want to go back. Well, I was born there, so I haven't been back since I was born and we left. My wife's never been, so to go to Europe and see some of kind of the history, church history, and just meet some people and friends that I have there. Hopefully see you, Dave.
Yeah, you are welcome to come and see me. I can't promise the sunshine, but I can promise good hospitality. Yeah, good. Definitely a good time. And if you could have one superpower, what would that be?
Dave, you know what? Oh man, I love that question because it's tough. It's tough. It's so tough to answer that question truthfully.
Answer
I'm
it.
wrestling. I'm wrestling between teleportation,
I like that one.
and not because I don't like to travel. It's not. It's just the demand and how quick I can go to places,
Gotcha.
and
Or-
also the ability to recollect everything.
Ooh.
So endless knowledge.
Now, is that...
I didn't want to be cliche and say wisdom, but
yeah, I hear you.
the ability to be like to have knowledge and recollect it.
But
Just
is
like
that
an identical.
is that a superpower, or would that just be like, would your brain be fried? That's what I'm thinking. Do you know what I mean?
You know what I was wondering. I was like, is it too much of a trigger thing to say? AI capabilities, you know? It's just, would people on this podcast be like, man, this man needs a lot of
Hey.
Jesus if he says that?
We're all right. We like AI here, so no problem with that whatsoever.
Just the ability to recollect and be able to communicate it in different
Brilliant.
moments. It'd be something. It'd be amazing.
That would be good. Hey, listen, it has been brilliant to have you on the show, and thanks for being with us. Hey, if people want to connect with you or find out more about you, where can they find you?
I think the simplest way, and I'll give one place, is my Instagram. I think you go in there, direct message me. My handles is P, and then my last name is Buzyan, Buzyan. You'll find me right there.
And before you go then, and the pronunciation and the spelling of your name, is different. The reason I'm saying this is because I know when I put the script out there or the stuff out there about the podcast, people will be thinking they've misspelled that. So can you please explain how your name is spelt and why is it spelled that way? So people don't come to me and say, hey Dave, what's happened at your end? Yeah, what have you done?
Hey, what's happening? Are you losing it? It's spelled Petr. You say it Peter. Technically, you could say it. Well, technically, it's Petr or Petr, which is how you would say it. Petr.
Yeah.
But I go by Peter, and it's spelled Petr.
Yeah.
And the reason it's spelled Petr, even when I moved to the U.S., is that the embassy translated not name to name, but letter for letter, and my name is 4 letters in the Ukrainian language. So
We've said that. We've nailed that. We've nailed it. So we're all right. Hey, listen, great to have you on the show. Thanks for being with us today. And thanks to all our listeners who've been listening to this, watching it, wherever you're watching this from. We just want to say to people, thanks for connecting into the podcast. Head onto the website. You can find out more resources, icon.church/open. Lots of free resources there for church leaders, for people to dip into. So if you want to find out more about what we're doing as well, head on over to the website. But you can find us and subscribe to us at all the major platforms. So thanks for being with us in the Church Explain podcast.